If I go crazy, then will you still call me Superman? Good question. In the Injustice universe, when Superman went a little bit bonkers-o, he kind of decided to take the law into his own hands in a very extreme way after the death of his wife and unborn son at the hands of the Joker, who caused him to think that his wife was Doomsday, so he flew her up into the vacuum of space, where she died, and so did her unborn baby inside of her womb. Did you still think of him as Superman, or did you think of him as a villain? I really like the Injustice storyline. Not my Superman, hashtag not my DC universe. However, very, very fun to examine a universe where Superman becomes almost what I think a lot of people would be if they had these kind of powers. A super dictator. So today, we're going to be opening up the Superman action figure made by S.H.Figuarts for the Injustice universe. Injustice Gods Among Us Superman. Let's open him up. This is for ages 15 and up, so it's not for children. Movable molding option parts. There he is hovering above us looking foreboding. There he is looking at the television seeing if his winning lottery numbers are coming up. And here he is flying to the convenience store to punch a hole in the convenience store clerk's chest because his winning numbers didn't come up. And here he is looking generally badass. And here he is looking red and blue. Cut along the dotted line and yank him out. Get out. And here's what you get. The cape and the fig. Let's take a closer look. Yard sale. He's got some plastic on his back. Now Supes comes with these 2 extra hands for presumably looking like he's in a flying pose. A pissed off I'm gonna break your face and piss in your cornflakes face. And then a really, really angry someone pissed in his cornflakes face. It's kind of funny to see the progression here. You have annoyed, angry, beast mode. Now before we actually show the figure, the cape actually attaches in the back here. There's like a little peg here. Okay, let's attach that. Alright, super dude, we're just gonna stick your cape in there. Oh my god, get in there. Don't you want it? There. Alright. Wait a minute. No flight stand? Really? Oh, I thought this one would have came with a flight stand. All I got was this piece of red cardboard and some instructions. This is how you install the cape, and this is how you install the hands, and this is how you install the heads. But if you collect S.H.Figuarts, you'd know how to do all this stuff. Good thing I got another flight stand I can use for this video, so we'll bring that in later. First of all, let's take a closer look at Soupy. Funny, I feel like this is the kind of Superman who you wouldn't actually want to call Soupy. This version of Superman is not devoid of compassion. He's seen some shit. Seriously though, what a cool looking figure. I was on the fence about this one for a while, and I finally was just like, you know, I'm gonna have to pick him up. The amount of work that has gone into designing this action figure is immense. You can really see that they put a lot of effort into creating something that looks really good from head to toe. I mean, seriously, the paint on this figure, the paint apps are like perfect. I can't see any paint slop pretty much anywhere. So totally impressed with the paint apps. And then the color choice just pops. The red of his S and his shoulder pads looks really, really nice. I'm really happy with the red they chose. And it's also the same red that they chose for his boots. And the sculpting is just so sharp with this action figure. It just looks so good. You can really tell that this was created for an adult collector, which is why the package says it's for like mid-teenage, like 15 years and up, because you wouldn't want to ever give this to a child under any circumstances. You'd want to give them the Mattel version to play with because it's going to be able to withstand kid play. But the details on this figure in the sculpting are just so amazing. You know, seeing this action figure makes me really wish that S.H.Figuarts could get a main DC license. I'm not saying take it from Mattel, keep that stuff coming at retail for like Walmart, Target, Toys R Us. However, it would be really neat if S.H.Figuarts, Bandai, could get a license to do all of the basic main classic DC characters and release those, because they just do such a stunning job. And you know what? When we get into the articulation, I do want to point out something about his joints being tighter than most of the other S.H.Figuarts Bandai figures that I've picked up. All of his joints are really, really tight. Before we get into that, though, I want to talk about the cape. They didn't get into using a cloth goods cape with this figure. They went with a plastic multi-piece cape, and so it's kind of weird in some respects. I mean, you would never pose it like that. You're kind of limited to posing him with the cape sort of like this, and that's going to be it. However, you can also push it together for when he's just standing there. You can do a lot with this cape as well, because when you want to get into flying poses, the cape can actually be out like that, and you're not dealing with wires. So there's definitely pluses and minuses to having a solid plastic cape compared to a cloth cape. I would have rather there been a cloth cape, but you know, I could see this being advantageous too for action figure photography. Now, before we get into articulation, I just want to pop off the existing head and show you how easy or difficult it is, because I haven't popped it off yet, to change heads. So I grab them under the chin usually and just pull up. Constant pressure. Yep, comes right off quite nicely. And here's what he looks like with pissed off face. Oh my god. Okay, that's a little bit tough to get that on there. And okay, here's the thing. I know that there's going to be some people in the comments that just say boil and pop. I'm definitely familiar with the boil and pop method, because I mean, I've been doing that for well over a decade. The thing is, with these figures, you should, in theory, be able to take off and switch heads easily without fear of snapping of pegs, and that's what I'm testing right here. Oh, okay, so that does require quite a bit of pushing, almost as if you're doing you would want to be careful and probably boil and pop to do the head swap. But that's what he looks like with, you know, pissed off face. Pop it off. Okay, so these heads actually are really, really tight, which is good. That means it's definitely not going to fall off, but you know, you're going to want to be careful when you take it off not to snap the ball peg and not to damage the head. You don't want to grab the head too hard in the wrong way and scratch the paint off the face. So, you know, for me, I figured taking the cape off is probably the best option, and then constant downward pressure. Alright, it's on there. Yeah, so you know what? You're going to want to use boiling water when you replace this, or possibly the blow dryer method. You're not just going to want to do what I did, because you may actually risk damaging the figure. This is a little bit too tight for just removing and replacing by hand without having to use quite a bit of effort and possibly damaging the figure. Now, articulation for this Supes is going to be as follows. He's got a ton of shoulder articulation in the form of this here butterfly hinge, and it comes right out of his back. There is so much movement in there. It's such a joy to be able to pose with his body. And his arms also go up and down like that. He's got the butterfly hinge, he's got the hinge swivel, he's got double jointed elbows, and that is a whole lot of movement right there. He's got his wrists on a ball peg, and again, I mean, there is a lot of posability in this figure in the shoulder, elbows, and hands department, which is cool. Now, the pauldrons complement the shoulder articulation because the pauldrons are actually on little tiny ball joints as well. So when you go to put Supes in a flying pose, the pauldrons actually don't get in the way. They actually don't hinder that movement, which is a really good thing that they took into consideration while designing the posability of this figure. This Superman figure also has an ab crunch, and it's actually a hinge in there. At first I would have thought it's a ball joint, but it's actually not. It's a hinge, and that means he can crane back a whole far away. So if you want to get him into a flying pose, when you combine that with the fact that he has neck and head articulation, 2 ball joints, this Superman figure looks brilliant when you set him in a flying pose. He's also got the waist articulation. He's got grunt articulation in the form of 2 ball joints right down here, as well as some rotation like that. But not only does he have the ball joints, he also has drop hinges. And I'm a big fan of drop hinges when they're done right. And I like these because that means there's even more posability with this figure. He's also got double jointed knees, which is always a fan favorite, and these are executed quite nicely because yes, it's a darker colored plastic underneath there, but it still blends into the overall look of the costume. However, it's not done quite as sloppy as, say, the DC film Superman. Now, I love this Superman figure. It's one of my favorites. However, if you watch my review, you'll remember that one of the things I didn't like about this figure was the double jointed knee articulation. I thought that it was just a little bit sloppy. That would be the one thing that I would change. Whereas this one, it's nice and hidden. It never looks out of place or strange. This Superman figure also has plenty of ankle articulation down here. It can go way forward and way back, as well as having some toe articulation. Now, another fan favorite that this Superman figure does have in abundance of, it has an ankle rocker. So that means the posability of this action figure is through the roof. It is really quite wonderful. And I do want to point out that the joints on this figure are actually all still quite stiff. It's not like a Mafex figure where once you start buggering around with the joints, they get really loose. This figure's joints, and I've played with them quite a bit actually, just testing them out, they're still really, really stiff. And I assume that they're probably going to stay that way. So that's something I'm incredibly happy about. And if you're someone that really pays attention to action figure articulation, I really think you're going to be satisfied with the amount of articulation that S.H.Figuarts has offered us in this Injustice Superman figure. I've just got him into like a typical flight pose here, so you can see that with the cape installed here and everything like that, you can see that the pauldrons don't get in the way. You can see that this figure just looks fabulous. So if you're a shelfer, you know, and you just want to have him on a shelf in a pose like this, it's great. If you're someone that likes to do Instagram and take lots of action figure photography photos, this is going to be an action figure that if you haven't picked him up, man, I give this figure so far my seal of approval. I am really, really liking this figure. I wish, again, that they would do this for just the classic outside undies soups. You know, we get a regular soups and a Batman and a Flash, because if they did it like this, the DC license would be awesome. Now, I do have, for comparison here, the Mattel DC Unlimited version of the Injustice Universe Superman, and this really isn't a bad figure. It's actually a pretty good action figure as far as Mattel figures go. It's definitely different than a DC Universe Classics style figure, and the articulation in this figure is certainly a lot more limited than this version, but this is not a terrible version altogether. However, it does pale in comparison to the superiority of the S.H.Figuarts version of the Injustice Superman. This figure is this figure's superior in absolutely every way. Really, I just had to have both, because that's Superman life, yo. Now, if you're looking to use this Superman figure in conjunction with, say, this Batman for some action figure photography sessions, it fits mostly. I mean, you can slot this Superman in place of this one to be in photographs of this one. Yeah, the head is a little bit larger. This figure is a bit more girthy, but, you know, messing around with perspective and stuff like that, I mean, you could probably make this your main Injustice Superman to go with your Batman and your Green Lantern DC Unlimited Injustice figures, and he would look just fine in your action figure photography pictures. Here he is in size and scale comparison to a DC Icons Rebirth Superman action figure with a head swap with the body. You're going to get an idea of the body proportions. And here he is actually in size comparison to the original classic Superman in the DC Icons line. And so, you know, he's bigger than an Icons, he's girthier than an Icons. However, he's definitely smaller than a DC Universe Classic scale figure, which we have right here. This is the DC Universe Classics Buck Super Friends Superman figure. It's been modified, new cape, new head, but as far as the body size goes, he's definitely much, much smaller in scale than one of these. Slotting him in with the DC Universe Classics set might be a little bit tricky at best. Now, overall, I really got to say I'm super impressed with this action figure in every regard. The fact that the knee articulation is well hidden. He's got toe articulation, lots and lots of ankle articulation, tons of articulation up here. He's got the multiple heads. He's got an extra set of hands. The color scheme, the paint scheme, the work they put into this, the design. This is an example of an expertly made action figure, and I highly, highly recommend that you pick this figure up if you're a Superman fan, or if you're an Injustice fan, or heck, if you're a Superman and an Injustice fan. This is gonna be a must-have for you if you haven't yet picked him up. And you can find these actually fairly cheap on eBay right now. They're not going for a whole ton of money, so you should be able to find one without breaking the bank. Anyhow, folks, that is going to be it for me today for this video, so thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. It always amazes me that you folks come back to watch video after video. Who would have thought that an idiot with a video camera and a love for DC Comics could actually entertain people and make people's day? That's wonderful, so thank you so much for coming back. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like on it. It lets me know that hopefully I'm doing something right. And if you have anything to say, anything at all, maybe you own this figure, do you like it, do you hate it, let me know down in the comments section below, because I read absolutely every comment. And if you think you might want to see more of my sort of content show up in your inbox, well, just click the subscribe button, remember to ding the bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, have a super day, everybody!